What's up, hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me tonight, Joel Fernino. Joel, how you doing, buddy?
I'm here on time.
Yeah, how about that?
But more importantly, everybody, this man is a married man.
HP jumping in the comments to say the same. What's up, Pheasants? DB is a married man. I sure am.
I had
put a ring on it.
That's a sick ring, too. I had the honor and privilege of standing up in said wedding. It was a blast. I was hungover for a day and a half. It was great.
Yeah, HP, one of the groomsmen as well. We had a phenomenal time. The weather didn't quite cooperate the way we thought it was going to, but
in a way it did.
We still got just enough of a break in the clouds to do a first look that was really great. The ceremony couldn't be outside, but we got some outdoor photos. HP saying he's still sore from the weekend.
Dude, I actually have bruises on my knees from that worm off we did on the dance floor. Yes, for every one of our viewers, my secret talent is I can do the worm.
We need to be very careful calling it a worm off because I'm not sure what people are going to think. We're not that kind of podcast.
Yes, the worm is a dance move where you get on the ground and you do like that. For any of our viewers that are younger than 20, which I'm assuming are not many.
HP saying we drank the bar out of old fashions. That's true. That happened.
We did do that. Yes, we did.
And not only that, but we drank them out of old fashions before dinner.
Yes, we did. I've never actually had a Jack Daniels old fashioned until your wedding, and it's
not bad.
It was fine. I drank the whole thing.
It's not what you would normally do, but it worked out okay.
No, I would not recommend it because that's just not how it's done. But if you have to do it, go for it.
Well, let's jump right in because we have playoff series that we need to get to. Playoffs. Let's start with Carolina and the Islanders. That game is about to drop the puck if it hasn't already. Mm-hmm. We have a 3-1 lead for Carolina in the series. They are underway, according to ESPN, 5 minutes into the first, no score as we are recording this.
Crap, I was going to.
Joel, how likely is it that the Carolina Hurricanes clinch tonight and get the job done?
I'd give it a solid. Well, I'm actually kind of curious what the betting odds are, but
I can look that up for you while you're giving us your take here.
I got it. Hurricanes are minus 170 to clinch it tonight, and that sounds about right to me. I'd give it a probably. Here's the kiss of death for me. Probably about an 80% chance. I think they get the job done. The Islanders they can't hang with them. They just can't. Sorokin is good enough to, as we said, steal one game, which they did. And that's all.
But as we kind of thought as well, the series hasn't quite been particularly close. The first 2 games were 1-score games, but both wins for Carolina. The Islanders exploded to a 5-1 win in their first home game of the series, but then Carolina winning 5-2 on the road. The Hurricanes are very good at home. And as I'm sure we'll hear 20 times on the broadcast tonight, they are loud in that building as well. So
yeah,
the home ice advantage, I think, is going to be a little too real for the Hurricanes tonight. I do think they take the win. And I bet on that one to happen as well. So hoping that bet hits.
I got one.
It's tough. I'm torn. The Islanders have been kind of my second team. Everybody knows I'm a Minnesota fan first and foremost, but
what? No one knew that.
I like cheering for the Islanders as well, and it's nice to have a team in the Eastern Conference to kind of root for along the way as well. So I do think this is the end of the road for the Islanders. I think this team got kind of lucky down the stretch that Pittsburgh really fell off over the last couple games. Losses
of the century.
Losses to Chicago and Columbus with the playoffs on the line.
Yep.
That roster has way too much talent to have missed the playoffs, but also nowhere near enough talent to have really done anything once they got there either.
Yeah.
but that still the Islanders, they made it in, so they earned it. But really not nearly the caliber of playoff team that they've been over the past couple of years. Kind of some surprise runs per se to the conference finals, and getting bounced by Tampa Bay along the way.
Unfortunate.
The Islanders still do not have enough scoring power, I think, to hang up. And even though Carolina, down Svechnikov, down Tavo, down Pacioretty, are still finding ways to come up with offense along the way as well.
Are they arguably the deepest team in the playoffs right now?
I don't know. My gut says Boston on that one.
That's chalk. That's
there's an argument, as crazy as this sounds, there's an argument to be made for Toronto with how well
we'll get to them. We will get to them.
Matty Nyes in the lineup. We'll get to that. But Carolina certainly has to be up there on the list of deep playoff teams.
I'd give them a top 3.
I think you're right. I have been very impressed how well they've held up without those stars that we just listed, and they just continue to roll out guys. So yeah, I do think Carolina gets it done tonight. I do think they advance.
You just yawn? I saw that. You held that yawn in. No. I'm calling that out. I heard that. I had one more thing real quick about.
Go ahead.
No, I was super quick about this series though. Like, I asked that question of are they the deepest team? Was this so far? Obviously, we're not done yet, and potentially we might only be halfway done, depending on how things go tonight and obviously tomorrow. But is this the most vanilla of the series that we've had? I feel like none of the games have really been this like they've been don't get me wrong here.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to agree with you because the series hasn't had hasn't had a ton of highlight reel goals.
Yeah.
It hasn't had nearly the same officiating controversies that we've seen in other series.
Right. Which we'll get to that as well.
The drama, I would say, has come from the injury and losing Tavo. That's obviously huge for Carolina, and that happening in this series.
Which actually, you could argue that probably is some of the officiating drama because that was a slash that didn't get called.
Yeah. So
he was pissed. I remember that. I forgot their head coach's name, but he was
Brind'Amour.
Oh yeah, Brind'Amour. Yeah,
RBS.
He was livid in that, but that was game 1, I think.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
So yeah, I mean, by now, I think that game was live while we were live. But that I agree. That's probably the only excitement, but that's not exciting. You took out a star player, and obviously, it's a great foreshadowing. The refs didn't call it, and that's been a theme. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this has been every series has been fun to watch, generally speaking. But if we're ranking the most exciting and most dramatic to the least exciting and least dramatic, this to me probably it was the most vanilla. It's just kind of your typical this is kind of exactly how we expected it to go. And barring, an Islanders upset tonight, I think it's exactly how we both said it was going to go.
I'm pretty sure we both said Carolina in 5 coming into the series, thinking Sorokin was going to be good enough to steal one.
Yep.
And being a game in New York as well. Home team's got to get one, right?
Exactly.
The old adage is it's not a series until the home team loses a game. So we saw that in
no teams to me. Yeah, no teams to me this year starting off those playoffs were, and none of these teams to me, I was like, that's a sweep. Like last year we had one, which you and I both called.
Yeah, Colorado, Nashville.
Exactly.
Year.
And that was a sweep. We called it. It was a sweep. That was the only one, really, truly.
Yeah. And we should point this out too. Carolina 28-10-3 at home this year.
Oh, that's exactly why I say 80%.
Their 28 home wins were third best, or tied for second, really, of any Eastern Conference team.
Those bunch
tied
of
with Tampa Bay and Boston.
Those bunch of jerks love it at home.
They really do.
I love Carolina, so I'm not actually calling them jerks. I'm making fun of Don Cherry for anyone who didn't get that joke.
Moving to the Western Conference, where we did
a very fun one, from the least fun to arguably the most fun.
Kings and Oilers are tied 2-2. We did have some officiating controversy throughout that series. We had a questionable penalty call in overtime lead to a power play and the overtime game winner in game 1 as the Kings came back and completed the sweep. We also had a Kings goal allowed to stand after what appeared to have been a puck played with a high stick. There was a long review, but the goal stood and the Kings won. And if you had told me that through 4 games of this series, Evan Bouchard would have more points than Connor McDavid, I would have said, okay, McDavid got injured in game 1. That's about right. But no, McDavid, to the best of our knowledge, isn't injured. No. Bouchard has just been that good for the Oilers in this series.
Yeah, I mean, he has been. McDavid finally woke up in games 3 and 4, which ultimately made a massive difference. I mean, the Kings were able to, the Oilers were able to overcome and tie the series in game 2 with, I think, only an assist from McDavid. He only had a point that game. But if we're going to talk technical and we're going to talk data, technically, that was a big difference, right? They are 2-1 when McDavid actually has a point. But yeah, no points at all in game 1 for McDavid, which was no, I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card.
Especially not after he practically led the playoffs in points last year, despite not even making it to the Cup final.
I'm pretty sure he actually finished with the most points.
Did he, or did Makar end up passing him late?
Maybe Makar did end up passing him late, just because.
But it was close.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but now he woke up. Now in the last 2 games, he's got, what was it, 5 points, I believe.
He's at 6 points through
6 points. So
the last 3 games. So
the last 3. So he's got, and 5 of them are in the last 2. He had a 3-point game 3, or I'm sorry, a 2-point game 3, and then a 3-point game 4. In that
4-point game 5 incoming. Follow the trend.
That would be pretty badass.
I can't quite see that happening, but
I don't know about that.
It's McDavid. You never know.
Would I be willing to put a little bit of a coin on, over 2.5 points or 1.5 points? Yeah.
Over 1.5, I'd feel pretty good about. Over 2.5, I might be pushing it, but
it might be.
I have a great stat here that was brought to my attention by Brett Marshall of the Sound the Foghorn podcast, who said that the Oilers haven't scored a goal without Draisaitl on the ice in this series. They're 14-4 in terms of goals for and against with Leon Draisaitl on the ice. No goals with 9 against when he is not on the ice. So
that's huge.
As much as we think McDavid is the X factor in that series, like right now, it is Draisaitl.
Oh, it absolutely is
keeping Edmonton in this series, albeit I understand with some controversy along the way. You know what I'm trying to say there.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. Like, Draisaitl has been all over the ice, and that's where this comes to mention. Like, when you have that kind of 1-2 punch, when the best star, arguably, that the game has ever seen isn't doing it, you have one of the second biggest star, one of the top 5 best players in the league right behind him. Mm-hmm. You have 2 of the top 5 players in the entire league, in the NHL right now, 2 of the best players in the world. And you have them backing each other up. That's where, and my whole point of this rant is, if you can't get this done, you're the LA Angels.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's going to be who is the bigger 1-2 punch in sports without a championship, with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout in the in LA with the Angels. McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah. And I mean, like they finally broke through, as I called last year, and got to the conference finals, the Western Conference Finals. Obviously just ran into a juggernaut of an Avalanche team. So no one's blaming them there. I don't actually consider last season for them a failure, to be honest with you. But this year they made some changes. They brought in Matthias Ekholm. It's not quite enough, as we've seen, but it's something. It's definitely better than what they had. It's an upgrade. Goaltending has been fine. I definitely think that they are still a step above having to resort to Mike Smith standing back there in net. But it's still not getting the full job done. Also, not to mention, like I said, the defense is still not enough, because even when what did we see in game 1 and 2? Early 2-0 leads for Edmonton, and they couldn't hold either of them. One of them they did come out victorious. The other one they obviously didn't. Controversial penalty in overtime or not.
I want to pick your brain on this one, because it sounds like the Oilers are going back to Stuart Skinner for Game 5. Jack Campbell picked up one of the wins for Edmonton in the series, stopped 27 of 28 in that effort. Stuart Skinner, through the 4 games that he has played, has an .881 save percentage and a .338 goals against average. Is Edmonton shooting themselves in the foot if they go back to Skinner for Game 5? Skinner was the better goaltender throughout most of the season. Sportsnet saying that Skinner was in the starter's net at practice today when they were doing their pregame skate. Is that a mistake if they're going back to Skinner for Game 5?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, he has started all 4 games. Obviously, he got yanked, and Campbell came in and got the win. Skinner obviously got another win. I get it, but yeah, I mean, I've lived this. You have to ride the hot hand. I don't care who your better regular season or your official number 1 is of the two. You have to ride the hot hand. I lived this in 2015 when Crawford got yanked in that first round series against Nashville. He looked horrible, and I was one of the biggest Corey Crawford fans ever. Still am. Still think he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, potentially. But he had to get yanked. He was fucking terrible. And I had to add that in there. He was terrible. And then Scott Darling came in and stood on his head. And then what did we do the rest of the playoffs when Scott Darling got us through that first round? We went back to Crawford, and Crawford proceeded to go back to normal. You have to ride the hot hand.
Joey commented basically the exact same thing that you just said, as you were saying it pretty much. So
yeah, exactly. Jinx. Yeah, jinx. I can't talk now. I'm sure. But I'm sure.
Joey congratulated me. Oh yeah, I guess if Joel is going to shut up for the rest of the show, except I just said his name. So
I don't know if I guess I have to be quiet now. I'm sure some people won't mind.
Well, interestingly enough, the next one in the queue, swear to God, didn't change this at all. Was Minnesota Dallas. So, this in particular, I want to get your thoughts on.
I have
this
thoughts.
Series. There have been quite a few injuries along the way. Obviously, the biggest one is Joe Pavelski. The Wild still without Joel Eriksson, who played all of 14 seconds in Game 3, re-aggravated the injury that had been bugging him. It appears that he is done for probably, I would assume, the playoffs at this point, until you hear there's a chance that he'll be back.
Yeah.
First off, which team is in bigger injury trouble? And second, pivotal Game 5 tonight in Dallas.
Yeah.
Who you got in that one?
Who's in bigger injury trouble? I mean, no offense. Your depth is absolutely hurt for sure. But losing a leader and just the sheer experience alone of Joe Pavelski for Dallas, I feel definitely is. If I were a Stars fan, that would scare me. Joe Pavelski has been everywhere. He's been to a cup final. I know he hasn't won one, but he's been to one. He's still going strong. He's still very good at age. How old is he now? 36?
36.
36, yeah. That to me was a huge blow. And he's he's one of their alternate captains, I believe, too.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. So just that leadership blow, and you need that kind of elite leadership. Yeah, of course you need the elite play, but you need that kind of elite leadership in the playoffs. That to me makes that blow a little worse. You guys, though, it's just much worse because I know the long list of you guys rely more on a lot more depth. You have to.
Well, I think the big difference for me is looking at the center depth for each of these teams. The Wild have always been a team that has struggled with center depth, and Joel Eriksson Ek, while not a first line center in the sense of somebody like a McDavid or Draisaitl, like a Rupe Hintz for Dallas, he's not at the first line scoring type of level in terms of his production, but he does still chip in offensively. Where he really excels is defensively and on the penalty kill. And Dallas's PK has scored Dallas's power play rather has scored 7 goals in this series. They've scored more power play goals than they have even strength goals, I believe, if the math checks out there.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Minnesota has kind of hemorrhaged some opportunities. And the referees that they have tonight, one of them is Steve Kazari, who is one of the most whistle-happy referees that you can
another
find.
Foreshadowing of later.
So if you're wondering about penalties, are they non-calls? Are they calls? I think we're going to see more of those borderline penalties called in that game tonight, which really does not bode well for Minnesota. I look at Dallas's center depth, where it's right now their lineup is Hintz, Johnston, Domi, and Foxa 1 through 4. And they can roll any of those lines out really in any order. Minnesota does not have that same center depth. And even if they do decide to try and work Marco Rossi into the lineup, which I think would be a mistake at this point.
So weird when they pronounce his name.
Good to have him practicing around the team. Good to have him doing some work and getting in some ice time there. Being someone that they could call upon if needed. I would be very surprised at this point if we see Rossi in for the Wild at any point in this series, barring another catastrophic injury. So as far as in the bubble of the Pavelski versus Eriksson Ek, which one hurts more? I can hear the argument for Pavelski. I think as the team situation, though, as a whole, with the other injuries beyond those two, Minnesota is really got their backs up against it for Game 5 here.
No, that definitely makes sense. You kind of talked me into.
It's close.
It makes sense.
Pavelski does contribute more offensively. You have to score goals to win games. But there is something to be said for the defensive element that Eriksson Ek brings. Plus, he's just a bit of a pest, an agitator.
Right.
The Wild players have described him as having a punchable face. Like it's who he is. He mucks it up. He gets under guys' skin, and
still got Revo.
They do, and Hartman, who is also playing injured. Kaprizov is playing through injury. Minnesota's banged up right now, and if Dallas wins the series, I would expect we're going to hear quite a long list of who all's playing through what. We'll get that either way. That's how it always works out this time of year. But.
Yeah, this to me has been. I'm just going to rate every series so far. This one has been what I will give the coin toss award to. Every single game, I have no idea who is going to win. That there is and it's funny too because even the sports books have had it because the last. Other than Game 1, because Dallas was just favored anyway before we saw the play of each team. Since Game 2, both teams were minus odds to win. It was always it was always split. It was minus 110 to minus 110 on FanDuel. It was minus 115, minus 1. Both were minuses. This has been the biggest coin flip series So that leads me into you asking me, who do you think gets it done tonight and who takes the chokehold?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to bet against Dallas at home, but at the same time, it's so interesting because you guys dummied them at home while they dummied you at home in game 2 and game 3, respectively.
Yeah, each team took a turn winning convincingly at home.
Yeah, 7-3 game 2, Dallas over you guys, and then you guys 5-1 in game 3, which was to me actually an easy call because you guys play so well at home. And then obviously, 3-2 from game 4. It's just so, man, I don't know. I think to me, also I had that wrong. My bad. Dallas beat you guys. They dummied you while they were at home, and you dummied them at your first game at home. Sorry, had that mixed up.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, but anyway. And then that's funny too, because then the other 2 games were just 3-2, double OT, and then just 3-2. That's just funny. So I don't know if it's going to follow suit where we started out 3-2, then we go 7-3, 5-1, and then 3-2. Do we have another 2 games where it's just covering on the puck line each way? I think Dallas wins tonight. I'm sorry.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm expecting a raucous Dallas crowd for game 5.
However, let me give you this at least. This still goes to 7.
I would love for you to be right.
I really think this goes to 7. Regardless of who wins tonight, I do think this does go to 7.
The biggest thing for Minnesota is you got to get number 97 going. That's why I'm wearing the jersey. Kirill Kaprizov held without a point for 3 games in a row now. That is his longest pointless stretch of the season.
You can't be having that.
I think he breaks out in a big way tonight. And whether it's a win or loss for Minnesota, I was bold enough on Twitter to call a Kirill Kaprizov hat trick tonight. I think he's going to break out in that big of a way.
What were the odds on that?
That is a very good question. Let's see. Goal scorer. Kaprizov, anytime goal scorer, is plus 135. I love that odds line. I don't know if I can find to score a hat trick.
So to score an actual hat trick, it's usually like 1+. Yeah, here we go. Player to score 3 or more goals. Kirill Kaprizov plus 3,000.
Yeah.
I mean,
it could be worth it.
Could be kind of worth it. Sounds kind of fun to just, play around with.
You throw a buck on it and you make some good money.
I ain't throwing a buck on it. I'm going to throw $5 away.
Well, we'll see. That could be quite the payday if it hits. So, from a series that has had very little predictability to a series that has had quite a bit of predictability, Bruins lead 3-1 in their series over the Panthers. Joel, I'm guessing that we're both in agreement on this one. Do the Boston Bruins advance tomorrow night with a win over the Florida Panthers at home?
No,
you are taking Florida.
I am.
Wow.
I am going to take Florida. I don't really know why, but for none other than the reason of, it only happened once, but the one win they got, they embarrassed Boston.
I wonder if it was almost like a wake-up call type of game for
absolutely.
Boston, like a don't poke the bear type of situation. Quite literally, because it's the Bruins.
But it's probably just me saying it to be different, if I'm really going to be brutally honest with you. But I think Florida can get it. I think Florida can get one.
Florida does have like a roster that is so talented that really has underperformed this year. I think a lot of people's expectations for that club were a lot higher than finishing wild card 2. So, on the other hand, in each of the 3 wins for Boston, they've won by 2 or more. A 3-1 win in game 1, a 4-2 win in game 3, and a 6-2 win in game 4. Boston is so built, man. They're so built for playoff success.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I think they get it done.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Well, then let's talk about a series that I think you will also admit that you enjoy a little
I'm glad we're going to
Kraken
spend more
and
time
Avalanche.
on this, because that last one was also another kind of it has not been vanilla, because I don't think anyone saw Florida just completely beating the shit out of Boston in game 2. But
yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah. So other than that, though, 3-1 is kind of going the way it's going. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I don't know. I'm going to lean. I'm going to just go not chalk, be not boring. This series, however, has been fun.
I'm
sorry.
Took the Avalanche while we were
Siri wanted to jump in there.
Lost my train of thought. Took the Avalanche at plus 190 while they were down 2-0. Avalanche came back and won 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Avs, for making me some good plus money there.
That was on your wedding day, too.
It is the night before, but yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was the night before. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, 2 nights before.
No, night before.
Yeah, Thursday, 420. They
No,
won 3-2. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Monday. Yesterday, right? You talking about yesterday?
No.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. I'm looking at this. Oh, yeah. They won. Colorado won 3-2 on Thursday, 420.
You know what? Last weekend,
you're supposed to.
My memory of things outside of the actual ceremony and day of is a little bit hazy.
There's a lot of brain cells that were put to rest.
Well, that and just there is so much planning that goes.
Well, I was talking about myself.
Okay. Yep. Fair. Okay. I was getting at the planning side of things and all of the making sure everything that needs to go right goes right on the back end and controlling everything you can control.
Absolutely. But
yes, all that to say, thank you to the Avalanche for making me some money on that one. This series has been just a blast so far as well. We've seen some of the higher scoring games, a 6-4 in game 3, a win for the Avalanche. We've seen 3-2s and 3-1s throughout the series as well. The big one now is Cale Makar being suspended for 1 game as a result of his actions in game 4.
That was bad.
Puck was out of play and he cross-checked the player. It was originally called a major on the ice, reviewed and reduced to a 2-minute penalty. But the Department of Player Safety almost overruling the referees on the ice.
Yeah, you're damn right.
To enact the suspension here. And this is a little bit of a break from what we've seen from the Department of Player Safety, where it seems like a bunch of the time they will have the backs of the referees, kind of support their call if they have a 5 that they reduce to a 2, as we saw in the Minnesota series where Matt Dumba's hit on Pavelski called a 5 on the ice, reviewed and reduced, and then there was not a suspension or fine levied against Dumba.
But I think that was the right call too, though.
Even still, it's weird that we have seen the Department of Player Safety go over the referees like that and kind of in a way contradict them.
Because
we're going to go a little bit more into the referees a little later in the show here, but at least for now, I want to talk about, is it that much of an advantage for the Kraken in game 5, despite the fact that they will be on the road? So Colorado playing at home, but no Cale Makar. It's a big loss. Is that enough for the Kraken to potentially carry a 3-2 lead into game 6 where they could win at home and advance for the first time in franchise history in the playoffs?
I can't believe I'm going to say it. Yeah, I actually think it is.
Are you gonna
Kale
actually
McCarr
bet that one, or just make the prediction? What are you thinking there?
I'd be willing to bet on that one. Yeah. To me, the Kraken have gotten better as this series has gone on.
Mm-hmm.
It's been split. So let me just double check scores here.
Odds right now, Kraken are plus 155 for tomorrow. Even without McCarr, that seems pretty juicy to me.
Oh, that's very tempting. Like, obviously they pulled a stunner in game 1, and then of course we know game 2 and 3 went the Avs' way, and then last night in OT. And it's to me they've looked good, but they have continued to just get better and better. Their quote playoff legs have absolutely gotten underneath them now. They look good. I'm not saying they're gonna, go on any deep run, but if there's gonna be any upsets in these playoffs, this one might be the one I would go for and think about.
At this point, it's sure tempting.
Yeah, and especially if they can, now they have to learn to actually clinch. They've obviously never done it. They've never been there. They just last night got their first ever home playoff game in franchise history, home playoff win in franchise history. They obviously have to, clinching it is the hardest thing to do. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're up 3-2 or up 3-0, clinching it is always the absolute hardest game, especially when you've never been there ever. So it'll be tough, but I definitely think they have the best opportunity in front of them to take a chokehold on this with the best, arguably the best defenseman in the game today being out for a game. That's to me setting up that ball, and you need to spike it. If you don't, you're gonna, to me, put yourself in a hole where I think this goes, if the Kraken win games tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Yes.
If the Kraken win tomorrow, we can actually take advantage of this, opportunity that has just been gifted to them. Not gifted. It was a good suspension, obviously. So I guess I shouldn't say gifted. I don't know if it happens in 6 or 7, but I could see them winning it. However, if they don't and they lose tomorrow, I think they just lose in 6 and that's it. They don't win another game if they lose tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And
exactly.
There is a ton of momentum on the Kraken side, especially getting their first home win in franchise history in the playoffs. That's big. And if they can ride that wave into game 5, I think the winner of game 5 takes the series. I think you put that really well.
Exactly. So. And, maybe we see that they can play with their backs up against the wall. If not, but if there's any team with or without, well, and McCarr will be back, obviously, by game 6, but if there's any team that knows how to take out the prey when there's blood in the water and the clinching game is on the line, it's obviously the Avalanche. But they are the defending champs until they are no longer the defending champs.
Let's talk about another series that is set at 2-2, and that is the Rangers and the Devils. I think this series has the potential to go 7 games.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that for sure jumped out at me just kind of right, and should jump out to everybody really, is that the home team has not won a game in this series. The Rangers won the first 2 on the road. Devils tied it up 2-2, also on the road.
Yep.
The adage is, and I talked about it earlier in the show, it's not a series until the home team loses a game. Well, now we're at a point where it's not a series until the home team wins a game. Which team do you think will break through at home first? Or will we end up in a scenario where the road team wins every game in this series?
We haven't had one of those in a while. I remember I think there was one of those last year.
It's been a long time. I think it was maybe Sharks Vegas a couple of years ago that did that.
Maybe. Do I think it's weird because like the Rangers were quite good at home. They were 23-13-5, but that's not exactly amazing either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and New Jersey, here's why it's not surprising to me. I know the regular season typically doesn't matter, but New Jersey was 28-9-4 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, both of these clubs won more games on the road than at home this year.
Exactly. So I absolutely agree. This can go to 7 games, but here's the other big thing to me. The Rangers offense going anemic the last 2 games. The first 2 games, they spotted 5 each game. Game 1 and 2. They won actually game 1 and 2, exact same score, 5-1 and 5-1, respectively. Then all of a sudden, games 3 and 4, they only put up 1 goal each game. To me, that's the difference. That team was built. Obviously, we know how good they are defensively. We know how good Shesterkin is in net. However, the way that team was built, not just at the, during the offseason, but obviously at the trade deadline, we've talked ad nauseum about adding Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko, among others. That team was built to defend well and score a hell of a lot of goals. They were built to do what Toronto could never do, as we've seen in the last few years. And right now, the last 2 games is the difference. They're not doing that.
I think the goaltending change for the Devils was exactly what was needed. Going from Vitek Vanacek to Akira Schmid. Schmid allowed 2 goals in 2 games. He stopped 57 of 59 in those 2 games. Vanacek giving up 9 goals in the first 2 games. I would be very surprised if we see Vanacek again this series. And frankly, as long as the Devils are in it, I think you got to roll with Schmid until he really, really drops the ball.
Absolutely. What did we just talk about? You need to ride, especially for the goaltender, you have to ride the hot hand. And if New Jersey does it, they will not make the same mistake that the Oilers are potentially making tonight. I don't know, man. That sucks for the Rangers. I mean, really sucks for me. I have them winning the cup, but right now they're making me a little nervous.
Yeah, and we kind of thought that the Devils were a team that, feisty and could give this Rangers team some trouble. They won the regular season series. Frisky. Yeah. A young, scrappy, and hungry team for all you Hamilton fans. And Jack Hughes really starting to come into his own as well. I think this series goes the distance. You and I both had the Rangers winning.
Did you hear the high praise Jack Hughes just got?
Lay it on me.
Yeah. And the great one himself, Wayne Gretzky, literally said, and I quote, "He reminds me a lot of me." That's awesome. Very high praise.
Yeah, it doesn't get much higher than that.
No.
The Winnipeg Jets down 3-1 to Vegas in that series. I think we had both picked Vegas to win that one.
Yep.
What, if anything, can Winnipeg do to rally at this point?
Rely on their gritty defense. Their defensive play, I should say, not just their. Obviously, they have a lot of great offensive defense. Well, they just play very good. They play very tight defense, but I mean, Vegas is just. Hey man, I'm pulling for it. I watched the highlights from last night's game, and like that air just got completely taken out of that building. Not even when Vegas went up 2-1, like when they tied it up. Jets scored first. Blake Wheeler went nuts, and he had that crowd going insane. And then all of a sudden, here comes 3 unanswered goals. That was it. That was done. And that's at home too. And now they have a chance to. Vegas has a chance to clinch at home in that barn, one of the toughest barns to play in the last couple of years. Yeah, no, this is to me. This is going to end up going 5. Vegas absolutely clinches this, and I'm excited to see it too.
Yeah, I think the only way that Winnipeg is able to come back in this series is if they miraculously get everybody back healthy. Just reading through the injury report right now, Scheifele, Morrissey, Ehlers, Perfetti, those are the guys that you count on in the playoffs. And amazing that we're already saying that about Cole Perfetti, the youngest player on that list, and it's not close, but somebody who is going to be the future for Winnipeg. and is already starting to come into his own a bit with this team. I think, barring all of those players coming back and being at least 85%, Vegas in 5.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, another fun little nugget about this series, last night's game. I saw a little tidbit. The Winnipeg fans, I want to say it was right after they went up 1-0, which would make sense. I wasn't actually watching live, but they started chanting to Brussois like, "You're a backup." And guess what? That backup ended up winning and shut you up real quick.
I was going to say he was a backup in Winnipeg too,
right?
And got cast off. And
I think that was
to get the
playoff
revenge against your former club.
That goalie that's a backup won that game 4-2, put a total stranglehold around this series, and is going to knock you out of the playoffs. So yeah, maybe keep your mouth shut.
Might want to zip it on that one.
Yeah.
We have one more series to talk about.
Oh, and it's arguably the most fun.
I moved it around because I wanted to talk this one last and really make everybody wait for it. We haven't quite been waiting 67 minutes per se, but we have to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this the year that they finally advance? A 3-1 lead in the series against the team that has gone to the Stanley Cup representing the Eastern Conference each of the last 3 years.
Yep.
Will Toronto finally exercise the playoff demons and advance to the second round? The only team other than the Seattle Kraken who has not won a playoff series since the 04-05 lockout. Does it finally happen this year? And if not, is there a Toronto left to come back to? Or will the fans just completely burn everything down?
I think everything you just said can be true.
Okay, fair.
I mean, you got to think so after last night's performance. That game was intense. They go down 4-1 and they stay down 4-1.
It was 4-1. That has been a meme for how long?
Exactly. Since 2013 when Boston screwed them over in Game 7. Oh my God. 4-1, but it's not even like it was 4-1 for half the game. It was 4-1 with 10.5 minutes left in regulation.
Yep.
And then who else to get it started but Austin Matthews with just a beautiful snipe. And quite frankly, it was a pretty humble response from Toronto too. There wasn't much fist pumping going on. You just heard a little bit of a woo and just hugging, and credit to Matthews. He almost had kind of the Mamba mentality face going hey, job's not done. Let's go. We're still down. And sure enough, he scores again to make it 4-3 off of a beautiful redirect.
Power play goal there too, which multiple power play goals on the game for Toronto.
And Tampa. Yeah, there was a lot of special teams play going on last night, and then you get Morgan Riley with an absolute laser with about, I think it was 340-ish, maybe 240.
Riley's goal. Yeah, 356.
356. Yeah, okay.
That's what was left on the clock there. Yeah,
356
left. The box.
Yeah. So it ties it up. We're going to overtime when we thought. The nail. When we thought the series was about to be, we thought, all right, this series is going to be tied. The air is going to be just totally out of the sails of Toronto after getting obliterated at home when they have a 2-1 lead somehow in the series, right? And no. And then in overtime, what time was it at? It wasn't too long into overtime.
Right? 3 minutes and no. It's 4:14 into overtime.
The name of last night's game was the redirect, and Alex Kerfoot, Johnny on the spots, net front presence, no one else in his kitchen either, by the way. It's just him hanging out there, and sure enough, and that it goes off the post and into a game last night that probably felt so magical to Maple Leafs fans. You see, everyone saw the video reactions of everyone, the watch parties in Toronto. The magic is there. So that's that part. Why not? And they probably have to be saying that. What? Why finally not? Damn it. Why not now? Why not us? Let's go.
Yeah, I feel like half the Toronto fans I know are finally it's happening. I believe again. And the other half are don't do it. Don't give me hope. Like that's where they are at right now.
Exactly. And I saw the stat last night after the game ended. I think ESPN showed the stat of the last, 9 times that the last 9 games over the course of however many years with Toronto could have clinched it. They've lost every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 of those 9 or 10, whatever it was, were at home.
Yeah.
Which is disgustingly pathetic. So,
which, by the way, Toronto will be at home for Game 5, and should the series go to Game 7, they would also be at home for Game 7.
Right. So this
Joel,
either,
is this the year that they do it?
You know what? It's got to happen sooner or later. I'm just going to stick by what I said when we started the playoffs. I think they finally exercise the demon. I think they do. Do they do it next game? I don't know. I have not enough confidence at all to call that. But I do think they can do it in these next potentially 3 games. They have 3 opportunities now to clinch. I think they can do it. And then on the other hand, if they don't, scorched earth.
I, too, am going to stick by my original prediction, which, as you may recall, was Lightning in 7.
It was. Well, we're going different. At least we can argue about it.
The line is shaping up exactly as I wanted it to, in the most chaotic way possible.
Yeah.
A 3-1 lead for the Leafs heading into Game 5. Multiple chances to clinch the series at home. And it's just going to be so funny when they unravel. Like, as a Vikings fan, like, Toronto is about as close as it gets to relatable misery with the number of times that you have been there and gotten close and just can't get the job done.
Couldn't do it, right.
There are few fan bases in sports more tortured than Minnesota, and Toronto at least has some championships long ago, cough, cough, 67, that they can hang their hat on. I can't do it. I cannot pick the Leafs yet. I can't do it. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking with Tampa Bay.
It's fair. You're being realistic. I'm being optimistic.
Yeah, which is normally a little bit different for how we do it on the show. I mean, we're both generally pretty optimistic people. But normally it's like, hey, if one of the two of us is going to predict a come from behind in a series, you're normally the one to do that.
It's probably me. And
it is very different to look at this and go, you know what? Yeah, I'm still taking Tampa.
Yeah, like we were talking about, like, oh, would you put would you put money on this, that, the other thing? Like, I just put money on your Kaprizov hat trick thing, which you can Venmo me $5 when that doesn't hit. But I'm joking. But will I ever bet actual money against Tampa Bay? No, absolutely not.
It is so hard to bet money against Tampa Bay, period.
Especially
it is even harder to do that when you are putting that money on the Leafs.
Yeah.
And knowing that Tampa Bay has won their last 9 Eastern Conference playoff series, it's been a long time since they lost in the playoffs to an Eastern Conference team. I just can't see the Leafs being the ones to do it.
Wouldn't it be something, though?
It would. It's
just like the story from both options is so cool. On one hand, you have a city that's just going to be potentially burned to the ground if it doesn't happen again, and then that team has to go nuclear. But then on the other hand, you have they finally exercise the demon, and wouldn't you know it, they do it against the arguable most dominant team of the last 5 years.
Certainly in the Eastern Conference, the most dominant, possibly the most dominant over the league, I would say.
Oh.
Yeah, it would make things entertaining. We got a few more minutes of show left here.
Jesus.
And we need to talk about the state of playoff officiating, where we saw in the last Stars Dallas game, two
Stars Dallas game
or Minnesota Dallas.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because Minnesota should still be the North Stars. Damn it.
No, they shouldn't. I mean, yes, they should, but no, they aren't.
Right.
Deal with it.
Never. The Minnesota Dallas game. Two penalties that, to quote Marcus Foligno, were bullshit. His words, not mine.
Love that.
Just throwing that disclaimer out there.
His words, not mine.
We also saw Evgeny Dadonov called for a penalty where it's, what in the world are you watching? There wasn't even contact on that play, really, that would have necessitated a tripping call. We saw, as you discussed earlier, the no slash call on Tavo that ended his season. We had the controversial high stick, no high stick call in LA Edmonton. And I think back to a couple years ago where we saw in the bubble, like, officiating was really bad in terms of what they were letting go, or what they were calling, but it wasn't really to this degree where it feels like this is having a dramatically more pronounced
Did you also
impact.
mention the two? I know you talked about Stars and Wild, but did you mention the two blatant cross checks to the kidney of Kaprizov from Ryan Suter?
I didn't even get into mentioning that. That was back in game one, following the Dumba hit, which again you can decide based on your fandom, based on your hockey viewing and knowledge, what you think on that situation. I guess Minnesota and Dallas fans will never agree on whether Dumba's hit was clean or not. I think we can all agree Suter kind of got away with things a bit after that, but Dallas may say that was justified. We're not going to get into that here. I feel like each of the last couple years we have said, wow, playoff officiating is so bad right now. How can we let this happen? What needs to change for officiating to be more consistent? Because I know we have some people who say, that's a penalty in the regular season. In the playoffs, you can't call that. Well, it's still the rule book that would be the call. Right. There are some who say, you can't let that go because it's the playoffs. You have to call it. There are others who think, don't call that. It's the playoffs. That's too weak a call. How do you find the happy medium of the two to at least get some degree of consistency? Because that's clearly what's lacking at this point.
I mean, to me, you know me, I'm usually all for, like, let the boys play, especially in the playoffs. But just what we've seen, I get it. Their job is hard as an official. I'm not saying it isn't, but you have that job for a reason. You have to know and be able to identify the degrees of which these things are happening. Sure, you're not going to see every little thing. Like even what I just called out with, like, for example, the Suter cross checks. One of them, the other one was definitely no one else was really around. You call that. But one of them was in a giant net front scrum. Obviously, the puck is still in play. Like, maybe I can give a little leeway there. You have to be able to figure out the degree. And I think my whole rant here, like, you should really always lean towards rules are rules. Playoff hockey is intense. Playoff hockey is playoff hockey. Let the boys play, fine. But rules are still rules. You cannot miss a blatant, and I mean blatant, high stick of the puck. It's like a full 3-4 feet above the crossbar.
You see the stick, like, see the stick move when it contacts the puck.
And it's not like it was like, it's got to, like, it's not like that. It's one of those where, it's a bang, bang play. I didn't see it and we already played the puck. They literally reviewed it. They had to review it.
Speaking of bang, bang plays, I think Dallas just scored.
Uh-oh. Did they?
Yeah.
But Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, we're
cool.
I want you to be able to watch. So sorry. I mean, I kind of called it, but well, hey, there's plenty of game left. Yeah, I don't. I think ultimately, as much as I like to let them play and let things go, they got the job for a reason. They are tested on these things, and I'm starting to question how well they're tested on these, the rules and everything and live scenarios. You should be able to determine the degree of some sort of infraction, and you should be able to determine whether, all right, it's playoffs, I can let that go, and it's not that big of a deal, versus, oh my God, like or versus like, oh yeah, it's just a 2-minute minor for completely obliterating Jared McCann into the boards when the puck was clearly already out of play.
And McCann did not return to the game, not expected to be back for game 5, potentially longer.
Is that official? Was he actually? I know he got helped off the ice and he was done for the night, but
they have not disclosed if and when he will return.
Something tells me he's coming back.
My understanding is that they are expecting that he will be out game 5.
Got it. Well, yeah. So that's the big, and to me, that's one of the biggest examples we have too. Like, you call that a major, you take it back and call it hold on a second.
Is he getting the Uber Eats? Yeah, he is. Joe muted himself here, so he's otherwise occupied for us.
That was but anyway,
Jack chiming in to say it's been a fun playoffs. It really
absolutely has been a fun playoffs. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Sorry. Food. Need food.
Yes. You need food. I need wild game. We'll
exactly
go on this.
So the biggest example here is that Makar hit on McCann. That's kind of fun to say. Makar on McCann. It's clearly obvious. They review it, call it back to a 2-minute minor when it should have been a game. It should have been not only a major, but a game misconduct. And now the Department of Player Safety has literally incriminated you, rightfully so. And what did I tell?
Sorry, I just got this notification.
What?
Marcus Foligno has been thrown out of the game for Minnesota.
Whoa, what the hell? Breaking news. We need a breaking news.
Just talking about the officiating, per the message I just got from a buddy of mine. This is his message. He says they turned what should have been a 2-minute tripping into a 5-minute major in game misconduct. 2 minutes in, and Foligno is gone. So we talk about playoff officiating and consistency.
It's almost like they hurt us.
I'm going to need to see some video here. But these refs have really had a number on Foligno's back for the last couple of games.
That's probably the best way to put a bow on it. We just had live breaking, most likely bullshit game misconduct.
I'm going to need to go watch some tape on this one.
It's it's tripping. Unless it was knee to knee. And maybe
that's the only
way I can think of. But we're seeing it too. We're seeing it.
That's a knee on knee.
Is it?
They just retweeted the video.
But is it a knee on knee? That's a game misconduct.
I could see the argument for that one being
really.
I'm
not
from this one angle I'm looking at. That's pretty bad.
I mean, maybe I can find it while we're on here.
I will send it to you right now.
Oh, I see it. Hold on. Oh, okay.
Okay. Statement retracted. Yeah.
Anyway, that's that. Well,
I would rather they call that a 5 than call it a 2. If I'm being honest, knee on knee hits are dangerous.
We could really like dissect this, but we're obviously coming up. We don't want to bore everybody by dissecting something they're not actually looking at. Go look it up. We'll retweet it from our Twitter account. Go look at it. I can see, I don't know. I'm 50-50. I can actually see that being only a 2-minute, just because he doesn't, to me, at least on the one angle I'm looking at, he doesn't blatantly like, I'm gonna stick out my knee right now. Like I'm in a cartoon tripping somebody. Like his leg was his stride. That was the shape his legs were at already to me, but I'm sure more angles will come out. I'm probably with you. Maybe stay a little more consistent there and just keep it the 5. But anyway, my final thing I told you was that the Department of Player Safety proved us right with that call alone, suspending Makar for the game when the refs were like, nah, 2-minute minor, even though we originally said a 5-minute major. But we also should have said a misconduct. Yeah, 1 game suspension for Makar. The entire officiating crew of that game should be going with him for a game because that's bullshit. And the Department of Player Safety just absolutely dummied you and put you in your place and totally exposed you for the absolute trash that the officiating has been in the playoffs. In that 1 game alone.
I've got a reverse angle on it here, and seeing the angle from the opposite side.
Do you see what I'm
sure
saying?
What Foligno. I don't want to say that I don't see what he can do differently there. He was going to run into Foxa no matter what.
The puck is right there.
It almost looked like he's trying to get out of the way and just bracing for the hit. Catches Fox at a bad angle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
But yeah, so as we know, maybe one's probably not. That one's not. I'm not going to put that one in the abysmal calls as we've been citing throughout this entire segment. But it's
that one is a little grayer than some of those other ones. It's been like, what are you watching?
The thing that sucks about it, unless you had more to say about it, but like my final thought on it is, it's happening in the first round, where obviously things are very important and that matters, but if this continues as bad as it's been, and this is the worst I've seen it in many, many years, if this continues and this is determining a conference champion or even worse, the Stanley Cup champion, that's not a ding. That's not a ding the league needs on them. Because quite frankly, the NHL of the 4 major sports, even though all officials, you know me, all refs and all officials are awful people for the most part. The NHL usually has the best of them or the least bad of them, like Wes McCauley. Wes McCauley's great. So like that's not good. We cannot be, the NHL can't be falling into the trend of how horrendous NFL, MLB, and NBA refs have been over the last few years.
I think that's probably a good place to end it for tonight. So I'll let you go get your food.
I'm going to watch the Wild.
Get some wild action going here.
Actually, Sam, I'm going to put that game on.
Yeah, on TBS tonight.
Oh, good.
Or no, TBS or TNT?
Well, I actually have the TV schedule up right here. You guys are on where the
BS.
hell is
Confirmed.
Wild?
TBS.
TBS, correct.
Yep. Hey, by the way, the wife.
The wife.
At the end of the show.
Hi, Michelle.
So that's right. We're married.
That is the wife. Congrats again, Dan and Michelle. It was an amazing wedding. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. And everyone watching and listening, congratulate them. And if you're listening and not actually seeing, this is an adorable picture. I will paint it for you.
He's Joel. I'm Dan. That's my wife.
Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.